It's Offside with Haas and McGuire. Okay, here we go. It's Offside with Haas and McGuire. I'm Haas.
I'm McGuire.
And today we're proudly brought to you by Redneck Brewing, the brewer of 4 different beers, by the way, Lou.
4?
You got an amber.
I do.
You got the amber. I'm drinking the pale ale to match my complexion. And you're not exactly a tanning kind of guy yourself. You got the Irish.
Yeah. No, I don't tan.
You know.
Well, I do actually over the course of the summer.
Yeah.
Well, golfing.
Oh yeah.
You know,
I get a little bit. I look good in the summer when I get some tan. I think
we all look good with a little bit of color.
Absolutely.
It's just tough to get.
I like when I'm a man of color. That's all I gotta say.
With our built-in pigmentation.
That's right.
Is that the right word? Did I say that right?
Absolutely. Oh. Yeah. You know what? You can't say that
one.
we're privileged when it comes to that.
No.
That's for sure. So listen. So I'm at the pub last night, and this guy comes up to me, kind of staggers up. Okay, and he says, "Hey, you're Liam's buddy." And I thought, oh fuck, there's a shot coming, right? I thought okay. And he goes,
many doors just opened.
I watch your podcast. I said, oh, well, thank you very much. He goes, yeah, you're good. And I said, well, thank you very much. He goes, no. And then he proceeded to tell me that he loved me. But it was really
that's
good.
Cool.
But it was really nice. But initially, I thought this was going to be a rumble, right? Because he came over with that. Hey, probably 6'2", 6'1", 6'2", and big. Like I mean, you can tell he was strapping at one point.
Yeah.
He's now the strapping has sort of fallen apart, kind of like me. Okay. At one point, I was built. Fuck, I had a perfect V. It's now a U. I'm working on an O. I've gone from a consonant to a vowel.
Hey, well,
I want to be on Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, you play a lot of hockey, man. Yeah, can I buy a vowel, Vanna?
Actually, I've got the Bruce Boudreau build.
There you go.
You know what I mean? Like, if you want to talk about guys who are in the like the realm of chubby fat guys, but who could actually play hockey in there.
Damn right he could. Yeah.
So.
Hell of a minor leaguer and should have had a better NHL career.
So what was his NHL career? Did he spend any time in the show?
Yeah, he had a cup of coffee with the Leafs, and he was an all-star, like a superstar in junior.
Yeah,
and really good in the minors.
I know something about him in junior.
Yep.
That he's got the record for the 5 goals in a playoff game in the Memorial Cup.
Yeah.
Plus the game-winning goal.
How'd you know that?
Look, I saw it on another podcast.
That's pretty good. I was going,
yeah.
Wow. Am I rubbing off on you, or what's happening?
I saw it on Spittin' Chicklets. To be honest, I was watching.
Well, they had him on recently.
They had him on recently, yeah. So I was watching that, and just again, I say, look, I'm watching you guys. Okay?
Yeah.
So time to fucking tune in, okay?
Well, if we can get someplace where we're trying to go in the new year, as you know, I've put some feelers out there,
and we may feeling up people.
Yes, not John Tate though.
Okay, so that's it. But today we're going to talk about some stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to talk about some things that are happening in the NHL, and I got to tell you, I'm getting a little frustrated with the Ottawa Senators.
Really?
So it came up last night at the pub. We were talking about where have the Senators gone wrong? Like, when did the wheels fall off the wagon? Okay, and some people said 2007. Okay, others talk about different years. I think the wheels fall off
post
the
07,
wagon.
obviously. They mean it. Yeah.
But I think the wheels fall off annually. Because
well, they have since 2017. That's for sure.
I don't even know what to say. Like, Utah was the worst team basically in the league last year out of Phoenix, right? Okay, or one of the worst. Close. They were like third.
San Jose.
Okay, San Jose was the worst.
Look, San Jose is a great example because they have come up off like a springboard right now. Now, Celebrini's playing a huge role in that, but they're playing really good hockey. Mind you, they got rid of the lump, in Karlsson. And that's shoring up the back end by not having to give him 22, 23 minutes.
Yeah, but he was gone last year.
Yeah, but I mean, the process of for them to emerge and the way they've gone up Ottawa has not. Now, mind you, Ottawa hasn't gone down in the bottom where San Jose was, but the frustration. Anyway, I don't put words in your mouth. Go ahead. I mean, I know where you're going, but go ahead.
No, okay. My question is, I'm going to say some things later.
Yeah.
But my question is,
what's happening?
You can't continue to blame coaches. You can't continue to, like, at some point, the players have to accept responsibility.
Yeah,
I mean,
quite
or
certain
are the coaches,
many of them have.
You know,
well, I don't think necessarily Travis Green was the greatest hire. I mean, what his track record wasn't anything to suggest he was coming in here and was going to lead this team to the promised land. He didn't really do much in Vancouver, and he didn't really do much in New Jersey, to be perfectly honest.
Well, you know what?
So what?
True to himself. He's not doing much here.
No, not at this point. Now. The other things tangible, Chris.
Kicking ass, taking names.
We all heard about the training camp that was supposed to be, puke bag city and the whole 9 yards. And I don't know what that necessarily means anymore, because I don't think that really happens much anymore in the NHL. First, you have mandated days off. There's no more two-a-days. That would never happen during the season anyway. But the bag skate used to be a common term.
Yeah.
I just don't hear it anymore. And so, I'm not sure that the Senators need that necessarily. I mean, they threw a lot of money, a decent amount of money at Linus Ullmark, but he's not the guy that won the Vezina 2 years ago. He slipped dramatically last year in Boston. If you look at his numbers with Swayman went right by him. And still as it was, they were tooth and nail to get by Toronto in overtime in Game 7. That series Toronto should have won easily, but didn't, and Boston bowed out very quickly the next round. So that said, the Sens, Chris, I mean, it's death by 1,000 cuts, man.
Yeah, well,
it's death by 1,000 cuts. You got no depth scoring. The scoring on lines 3 and 4 is virtually non-existent. Now, I see Gaudette skated back down as we're taping this December 4th. Back on the fourth line at practice today. We'll see where he plays tomorrow night. He's only been, we talked about him on the show last week. They've moved him down to the fourth line, probably because he's scoring, so they want to put him down there. You put Batherson back up.
And why? So that he can stop scoring?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, Stutzla's rebounded.
Yeah, Stutzla.
He's been spectacular.
Yeah.
Brady's played great. I know there's criticism sometimes when he fights. There's criticism sometimes when, the give a fuck meter, sometimes it doesn't look like it's on. I don't think it's ever off with him.
You're probably right. I mean, listen, he's a guy, he's a franchise player. There's no question.
No doubt.
Okay? Absolutely. And you know what?
And as we sit here, he's getting named to Team USA.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, it is. It's come out through the grapevine. He's getting named to Team USA. I mean, hello. Yeah. They're picking 25 players from the NHL, of which they've got a lot to pick from. Brady to Chuck. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But Ottawa's death by 1,000 cuts.
The dad is going to be catering the event.
Yeah, I was going to say, boys, I'm eating well, so guess what? That means you are too.
They're going to Tim Hortons later on.
Here's other stuff too, though. Yeah. Jake Sanderson's regressed, Chris.
Yes.
He's regressed. He's having a sophomore slump here right now where he's playing on, He
thinks he's Shabbat.
Well, I hope not.
This is the problem. You know what? I've always said this, and it's from growing up and liking players like, Brad Park, even when he was with the Rangers.
Yeah.
Okay. Or obviously.
Sure.
Okay. And
even when he was with Chicago.
Even with, you know what? That was such a fleeting moment. Okay.
Yes, but it did happen.
But I always believed that you build your team from your defense out. If you got a puck-moving defenseman, like Park, and they were solid. They could score. They could do everything, but they could move the puck like a Denny Potvin. Like you can go through the list.
Every team, yeah.
Every winning team has that guy. Montreal Canadiens had fucking Robinson, Savard,
the big three.
You know what I mean?
Lapointe,
and Lapointe.
Yeah.
Okay, you know where Lapointe played? On Lapointe.
Yeah, he played on Lapointe.
Okay, on Lapointe.
And his nickname is Pointu.
Yeah, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. See, I didn't know that.
No, it's French, but anyway,
okay. What's it mean?
Don't know.
Oh, okay. Call in the bin.
Exactly.
Okay, so I think that the Sens, any organization, but the Sens in particular, they've got to fix the defensive issue. Like that is the defense. And you know what? You talk about Allmark, he's not playing great. He's actually making the first saves.
Yes, in
like I was
some
watching the
instances.
games,
I mean,
he's making the saves.
there's some games where he's absolutely shit the bed. But I mean, I'm not blaming him totally. But they haven't had consistent goaltending, and they haven't had consistency through the lineup, despite the fact they've got the third best power play, and they're one of the top scoring teams in the league. Ottawa hasn't had problems scoring for a number of years now. They've had problems defending.
Right.
So, we can say what we want about the
point.
third and fourth line, but when you've got 2 or 3 guys up front, whether it be Pinto and Norris a couple of years ago before Pinto's gambling suspension or Norris's shoulder injuries, what have you, whether it be the consistency of Stützle notwithstanding last year, but he's bounced right back. Brady's been Brady. And they've had other players chip in, like Gaudette this year. So
what is it they need? Do they need to go on a war?
They need to make a trade. They need to make a trade of a core piece. There's no question. One of 2 or 3 guys has to go.
And who's that? Who do you think?
Probably Norris.
Yeah.
Probably Norris is the one that seems most likely. If you've got 3 untouchables, it's Brady, Stützle, and Sanderson. I think everybody else, but you've got contractual issues. They got no moves. Guys control it. Ironically, as we tape this, tomorrow night they're honoring the pizza line, and Danny Heatley caused a tremendous kerfuffle here combined with Melnick. It was oil, meat, water.
Yeah.
But, Brian Murray had a deal made with Edmonton that Danny Heatley nixed because he had a no trade. So he was able to pick his poison as to where to go. And it ended up being San Jose, and what was then even ahead of time a lesser deal than what Brian Murray allegedly had on paper. So this is some of the problem that current Ottawa is going to have to deal with as well. But let's put it this way. They've got, I think it's a 4 or 5 game homestand, which then ends because of the World Juniors.
Right.
The World Juniors are coming in, so Ottawa's got to go on an extended road trip over Christmas, and nobody goes on the road unless you're the Minnesota Wild or the Vancouver Canucks and does particularly well. 500 is phenomenal, and Ottawa's not there. So you've got to make some hay right here, right now.
Right.
Plus, you're playing some teams. Detroit, you've had some success against. You got Nashville, who are inexplicably, despite who they signed in the offseason, have been patsies for most of the season so far. They're on their little Eastern sojourn. They're going to lose to Toronto tonight. Then they got Montreal. Then they got Ottawa, and that's Nashville. But I mean, so Ottawa's got an opportunity here, Chris, to make some hay on home ice. If it doesn't happen, you got to trade a core piece.
Yeah.
And I'm suggesting Norris. I mean, I don't know what other. You want to try and make a deal involving Pinto or somebody else. You're asking for who? What do you want to do? Well, I want to break up the core because it's not getting it done. Right. You just started this show saying that. Yeah. You're frustrated. You're fed up. Everybody is. Every Sens fan is. So move one of them out. For who? Get defensive help. Yeah. Get help back there on the back end that can come in, and whether it's an upgrade like what is Zub? People are talking like he's
not Superman.
No, but
he's Superman.
The talk in here, especially from some of the Ottawa media, was, oh my God, we got Zub, he's a shutdown D, he's unbelievable, he's this, he's that. Tanner Jeannot ran over him like a steamroller, and he does that to a lot of guys. Yeah. But I just don't think, and with the Sanderson regression, it's really highlighted their shortcoming. But right now, it's death by 1,000 cuts. They're fragile. Goaltending's been inconsistent. Power play and scoring is fine, but the depth scoring when need be, and you're collapsing in games and you're losing games that you should not lose. And they just need a collective shaking of the dust off the old blanket, and it may have to come.
I believe
at the expense of a trade.
Kick in the ass.
Kick in the ass. That's skate the shit out of them. Do it back. Get their attention somehow. I just don't know. We're not there, Chris. We're not in practice.
No, you know what? And
so we don't know.
To be fair, I'm not on the coaching staff.
No, neither am I. So
and I think that if I was though, they probably wouldn't listen.
Well, your hands would be tied unless you were the head coach, and if you're the head coach, you'd like to think. I think we all would. Those of us who were bench bosses for our children probably think that we know a thing or two about coaching in the NHL, which of course we don't have a single solitary clue.
They're all kids.
They're all kids at heart. And there should be an
These
element
are
of
several $1 million a year kids.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so there's a higher level of expectation that we as fans have, that the organization needs to have. And at the end of the day, if they're not performing, they're not making money. If they're not making money, they're not going to get fucking paid. And then you're going to
the contracts are all guaranteed, so they're getting paid. So
okay, yes, but for how long? Because guess what? You end up with a situation like Melnick, where when things started to slide, things were great. But when things started to slide and the money started to go away and the ability to keep things going, that's when we saw the cracks in his
money went away, though, for different reasons.
No, but that was his outside money. But the operational money of the Senators, like they were going, and then all of a sudden fucking cut all the back office, cut all the support staff, cut all those things.
Well, and that happened over time. It didn't happen overnight. It happened over time.
It happened over time as things went. Yeah. And then by the time we got to like the 20 teens, it was a shell.
Well, when he screwed around with Alfie, that had a domino effect on the roster. There's no doubt about it. And then the threatening of the fan base all the time with moving and everything, leading to the billboards. We all know the story. Here right now with Angelauer, Steos, Travis Green, you brought some quality guys in, but in terms of, do they move the needle on putting a franchise together that is going to go to the next level? Well, right now, Chris, no, they don't. And here it is again, now in yet another season, the 8th, that they're heading towards potentially a missed playoff berth. I mean, they've got to go like right now. You need to win tomorrow night. You need to beat Nashville on Saturday. You need to win 4 out of your next 5. That's just to pick up a point or 2.
Right.
Like you're 5 back right now. You got games in hand, but you got to jump like 6 teams. Yeah. Everybody else is doing the same thing. Look at last night. There were 10 games. I think 4 of them went to overtime. Yeah. It was a shootout, 4 OTs or something. Like these games, there's 3-point games all the time. Yeah. So it's tough. We all know this. So it's hey, I get the Sens fans' frustration. Like, this is the last year for Montreal on house money. They are expected to make a pretty significant move next season, like into conversations about in that 90 to 98 point range and be in a playoff where these other teams that are ahead of them right now are going to be your Detroits and Buffaloes and Ottawas.
Right.
Montreal's expected to be there next year. And so what's going to happen? We'll see. He can tell you, Marty St. Louis will be on a short plank. And Travis Green. Hey, look at St. Louis with Drew Bannister. Like we talked about last show. Marty becomes available. I see you, Drew.
Yeah.
Bring him in because they think it's an upgrade on coaching. Monty gets let go. Boston's struggling. Looks like they can't find their way out of a wet paper bag. Now they're 5-2 under Joe Sacco. Yeah. Joe Sacco's been an assistant coach since God was a cowboy. It seemed like, and it's unbelievable.
You know what? And
new coach though, new coach bump.
Right. New coach, yeah, and that is nice. It's a honeymoon.
Assistant coach forever, and when those guys just stay in that position for as long as they do, now you got thrust into it because they had to do something.
Right.
Because they were floundering badly. Well, they've gone on a nice little run.
You know
here.
That expression? Some men are born to greatness. Others have it thrust upon them. So there you go. That's enough of that conversation. Okay, but we'll go back. We'll go to Boston right now because 100 years of the Bruins.
Yeah,
I didn't know it was happening. I would have actually said we should go down. We should have crashed it.
Well, if Wendy watches this, she's going to be ripping because we actually talked about going down to this game with other friends of mine from Quebec City, Gary Craig, who's a huge Bruin fan. He's a Bruin fanatic. And we said, let's pick a game. We'll try and go down. When my mom was living in Quebec City, I was down every month. Gary was in my rotation, and his wife Andrea were in my rotation to go see every month that I went down. And Wendy and I had plans to go down Quebec at one particular time, and we went down and introduced her to Gary and Andrea. We said, hey, we should go to Boston. And I looked at that game, and I didn't know. I didn't know. I never saw anything.
I count on you to know this.
I know. I'm supposed to know. And I didn't know in the summer. It was only really like the last month or so when we had long blown it out that we weren't going to do it. And then because I was going to go through the Bruin alumni to get my tickets, well, guess what? I never would have got them.
No.
They would have told me straight up.
Yeah.
And would have said, oh, Liam, they would have told me back in July or August.
Yeah.
We're doing the 100th anniversary, and we are an absolute sellout. Like, you'd have to probably buy tickets or whatever.
Well, yeah, we could have bought tickets. But, I mean,
I suppose.
At the end of the day, I'm just trying to make you feel guilty. They had a real shindig with that whole thing.
Yeah.
And
it was really impressive.
Yeah.
It was really impressive. They did a great job. You must have loved it.
Well, I never got to see it. I got to see it after, to be honest with you. I
Yeah.
didn't get to see the whole thing because I was actually busy. I had other engagements, and I'm a very busy man.
Yeah.
And so I only saw the clips and the highlights of the whole thing. So you get the best of it, and you get the sense, but it's not the same. Like, it's not, you're not moved to tears, which I think I might have been if I had watched the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't know, but you may have as a hardcore Bruin fan. I think any hardcore Bruin fan.
Well, I had some intestinal discomfort, so that could have caused the tears too.
Well, you know what? From that opening drone sequence that went right by Bobby Orr and the statue, and then into the rink, and would stop like everybody it went by. It's like you got Willie O'Ree. You got everybody. You got Espo in there, Busick. You got all the guys are standing by something, and the drone goes by, and it was so poignant. Really, they did such a good job. That was off leading up to it.
I didn't see because I saw that, but I did not see Wayne Cashman.
Yeah, he was there.
Oh, was he?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Cash was there, and I was so thrilled to see him because we heard a few years ago that the cancer was really bad, and I thought he came out, and I thought he looked really good.
Okay, so I didn't see that part.
Yeah, again, Cash was there. Clips. We didn't see our buddy Ken Hodge.
No,
I didn't.
Well, you know what? No, I think I did. I think I did see that.
Okay, I didn't see him on the ice. I don't recall him being on the ice. But
said,
he may have been there.
Yeah, no, it was in the hallway that I thought I saw him.
I don't think so. I don't think so because he's in the hallway. He would have got called on the ice, and they didn't. I don't believe they called a lot of guys on the ice. But it wasn't like when they closed Maple Leaf Gardens and rolled out 105 guys, and a third of them were hammered. And they had to be. They were fucking Leafs. Well, exactly.
Okay.
But you had no Keon, and you had no Paul Henderson. Not that Paul was the greatest Leaf of all time, but I mean, neither one of them coming back, closing Maple Leaf Gardens, and you rolled out every Tom, Dick, and Harry, and it wasn't a great ceremony. I don't think. Boston, phenomenal what they did with the video
buddy
screen.
Graham Townsend was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know Graham?
Yeah.
Do you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think you've ever shared this with me.
He's the first Jamaican-born player in the
NHL.
NHL.
Yeah.
He played for the Sens. He fucking hated the Sens, eh?
Did he?
He hated playing
well, I
with
mean,
the Sens organization.
Yeah.
I mean, he played in PEI, and he got called up a couple times. But he, he's a Bruin at heart, right? So, no, he's a good guy. But he was
awesome.
there. I saw him. He posted a picture of him on the luxury bus.
Yeah?
That they were taking them in with.
Well, they did. I mean, they had Gary Galley doing the game, and he had some of his best years. His best points years were in Philadelphia, but he had great years in Boston. Went to the final with them in 1990. Scored an OT goal against Montreal in the Forum, no less. So he had some great memories playing for Boston. I know him and Bork have stayed close. I thought they just did a bang-up job. And they had Ken Dryden come out representing the Habs, and Dryden and Brad Marchand walking Johnny Busick back. Johnny's showing his age for sure and walking with a cane and quite hunched over.
He's got to be bringing late 80s.
Oh, my God, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, he broke in with Detroit in 56, I believe. And he was traded to Boston in 57, one up for Terry Sawchuk. Can you imagine that? Busick and Sawchuk traded for each other, 1 for 1.
A good trade on both sides.
Yeah,
that's a win-win. That's a win-win trade.
It really is because in Boston's case, they were trying to stay relevant after basically the Kraut line had come and gone,
right?
And they ended up producing the Uke line out of all that. And, they went to back-to-back Stanley Cup finals in 57 and 58 with a good nucleus there. It's just it dissipated pretty quickly. It was built largely on toughness and veterans. And then when it dissipated, they slunk down to the bottom until Orr and then the Espo trade. But I mean, in those days, Johnny Busick and Bronco Horvath and Vic Stasiuk were the big scorers. So yeah, Johnny went and did great things.
I wasn't watching it back in the 1950s.
I remember it vividly.
You're not that much older than me. You were in the womb. You were watching it.
I remember what's that show? The 2,000-year-old mouse there, Max.
Max,
right? Max, the 2,000-year-old mouse. Yeah.
Okay, moving on.
Great ceremony, and Boston stomped Montreal, so that's never a bad thing for a Bruin fan. They scored 3 goals in 2 minutes. The game was over. Caden Primo, God love you. You're the worst goalie in hockey in the world right now, and that is going to be really, really difficult. He is so fragile and so out of touch with. It's like the puck is his enemy. He just can't wait to get out of the way of it. And unfortunately, he's got this net behind him. He's supposed to stop it. He's having a really tough time, and he was terrible, and the team didn't play well. But that said, big win for Boston, and big ceremony for Boston. They're 5-2 under Sacco. We'll see how it goes. They're going to get past here in the standings and get bumped down into the wild card spot more than likely because they've played more games than anybody. But who cares? Yeah. Just keep winning, and you'll stay above the horde,
right?
The pack that are
now,
chasing
I have a question.
behind you.
This is so. Monty gets fired. Mm-hmm. Does he still get the remainder of his contract?
No, because he signed right away. So the money goes right away, transfers to St. Louis.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So they're on the hook to pay it.
Oh,
you only would have got it had he.
Double debt pay. He should have just gone back to consult with St. Louis.
Yeah. He's pretty happy to get behind the bench, and they've had a bump with him.
Oh, yeah, Okay. All right, we're talking about other things now.
Everybody with Ottawa, it seems, Chris.
It's well, we're all slumping. We slumped last night in beer league.
No way.
Yeah.
You guys were, I heard, heading to legendary status.
We were undefeated. I
read it on Twitter.
Yeah, was it? Oh, it was out there. Yeah, and then unfortunately, it's not. I fucking hate losing.
Yeah.
I'm a fun, happy-go-lucky guy.
Yeah.
Except when we lose.
Yeah.
And then I go into the dressing room and I'm like, and then I'm like, looking at guys like, you fucking missed that check. You fucking, you know what I mean? Like, I don't say it out loud because I'm not exactly, flawless, right? But it's funny how when you lose, you just get so like, you know what I mean? And then we had a couple of beers and then we're fine.
Yeah, that's generally how it worked for me too. And all the years I played men's league hockey, I didn't take it too serious. I took ball hockey losses a whole lot more serious because I put those teams together. Yeah. So that was
the general manager and
I was a playing coach, GM, chief cook, and bottle washer. So I put those teams together.
Reggie Dunlop.
I was Reggie.
You were Reggie Dunlop.
I was Reggie.
Okay.
And in that vein, in 1992, I had the toughest team in Canada. There's zero doubt about that. Absolutely zero.
Okay, so listen, we got to wrap this thing up.
Yeah,
we're going to talk about. So one of the things we are going to talk about is things that happened in the past. Today is November the what?
Well, it's December actually, but I mean that's such a close month in November.
It is. They are close. They're both the same.
Some may say it's like the next month.
I know. You know what? Okay, so it's they fall. Okay,
it's amazing.
December. Okay,
he misses nothing.
No, so it's December. December the what? What is today? The 4th?
Yeah.
December 4th.
Yeah.
Okay, so December 4th.
Yeah.
It's obviously not a day that will live in infamy.
Well, it will for some.
But so tell me what happened on December.
Well,
we're going to do this. Oh, by the way, this is brought to you by Shoeless Joe's. With where do they have?
Two locations.
One in Orleans, one in Kempville.
But Shoeless Joe's is sponsoring this day, and ironically, it's a Montreal Canadian. And then I'm gonna kind of kidnap the date in a second,
You're
Chris.
Kidnap the date.
I'm kidnapping the date in a second. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
But I want to give a shout out to Patrick Laney. Scoring last night for the Montreal Canadiens as we tape this. This was the much heralded pickup of the Habs in the offseason, who got hurt in an exhibition game against Toronto by Cedric Perret, however you say his last name. He's been playing for the Marlies ever since. Probably never see the light of day in the show. But regardless of whether you thought it was dirty or clean, Line A made his much vaunted return to the Habs and in true Hollywood fashion scored. And he scored a beauty.
And he did it. He wasn't even jacked off on painkillers either.
Well, I don't think so. I mean, he's generally they won't let you out of that rehab until he was 6 months in.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure from how he sounds anyway, you'd like to think he can stay clean and sober.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be the first guy to relapse, sadly.
No, I mean,
and go back. But
absolutely. But
he's running out of strikes here.
Yeah.
So.
But bad injuries is not a good thing, right? Like that's the killer because he
got lucky because he didn't. There was no tear.
Right.
He ended up just with a bad bruise, and he was expected back by Christmas. He was ahead. And we saw him skating, and then of all people to smoke him in practice, Justin Barron, who hasn't thrown a hit in league play yet, which is why he's out of the lineup. I mean, Chris, there's just some guys I look at and just go, I know Sidney Crosby said all the nice things about him when Montreal picked him up from Colorado in the Lehkonen deal, Mm-hmm. And he's a decent skater. He meets an okay first pass. You can see he's got some offensive qualities. But I swear to God, I don't think he could break a pane of glass or a piece of balsa wood physically. Like you have to have some moxie back there. If you're starting to build a team that's eventually going to challenge for a playoff spot and beyond, I mean, you got to make the playoffs, then you got to win 3 rounds just to get to the final.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just.
But you don't know. You know what? You don't know what people do when they rise to that occasion. So many times you see people that you just go, oh my God, they're going to flake under pressure, and then all of a sudden, once that pressure's put on, they're not only that lump of coal turned into a diamond, but it becomes the hope diamond.
There's a lot of hope involved with Justin Barron. I tell you, he's going to have to find another gear. Having said that, he's out of the lineup. Doesn't matter. Line A played, scored. December 4th, today's date.
Yes.
Brought to you by Shula's Joe's. Is 1909 is the origin of the Montreal Canadiens.
Who's that?
So the Montreal Canadiens franchise, such as it is, was formed on this date in 1909 by J. Ambrose O'Brien, John Ambrose O'Brien, who at the time was a resident of Renfrew.
Okay.
Because he owned a number of the mines throughout the Ottawa Valley and all the way up to as far as Cobalt and Haileybury and those towns. And
so he had a bit of cash.
He had a bit of cash, and the family had some cash. And when
an Irishman with money?
I know, because that's usually an Irishman and his money are soon partying.
Yes.
Not partying. But I mean, he's a founder of so many things because he was the founder, really, of the National Hockey Association, which was a forerunner of the NHL. And he played a role in how the NHL began as well, because he was part of the consortium that kicked out Eddie Livingston from Toronto, which forced the league to come up with a new name because of the copyrights and everything. And they sat in the room in the Windsor Hotel in December of 1917 or November of 1917 and said, what do we call ourselves? Frank Calder said, how about the National Hockey League? And that's how the NHL came along. And O'Brien was a part of that. But he started the Montreal Canadiens.
Is how long did it take them to fucking come up with that? Because it doesn't seem like it's too big a stretch.
I think minutes. It sounds like they literally got up from the meeting with Livingston when he said he would fight them tooth and nail in court if they tried to kick him out. And they walked across the hallway, and Frank Calder, who became the president, who the Calder Trophy is named after, sat there and said, I recommend we dissolve. It's the only way to get rid of him. We could do it right now. We have the proxy. We have our votes. We can do it, including J. Ambrose O'Brien, obviously. And they dissolved the NHA. And they said, now what? And they said, well, how about the National Hockey League? And you're right, it doesn't seem like it's a huge stretch. But I mean, it'd be something to be Max, the 2,000-year-old mouse, and be in that room.
I'd be interested to find out whether or not, I mean, I think today a good lawyer could probably, fight that.
Well, this is 1917.
Yeah, there were no good lawyers.
Sure there were. But I mean, I listen. There's volumes has been written about this, and there's a lot. Even the former Prime Minister Stephen Harper took a pretty big rip at what happened in those days between sort of like early 1900s right up to 1920 or so. He largely from the Toronto point of view, but it's got some stuff in there. Anyway, point is, there's lots on there if you ever want to immerse yourself in, which most people I'm sure wouldn't. However, that date, certainly for me personally, but I think league-wide, they are the winningest team. They've got 24 cups. They won their first in 1916. And they came in the NHL. They played 12 games that first season. They won 2 and lost 10 in 1909-1910, first year of the National Hockey Association.
They were only a 20% winning team.
Yeah.
They're 200.
Yeah.
Kind of like they are now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, they're not much better.
Yeah.
They're not much better.
What?
Yeah.
They've gotten no better after this.
They've improved by 21 points the last 3 years, and we'll see where things slot out. That was an excellent hockey game last night. It was just really super game. Patrick Waugh said the same thing, coaching the Islanders. Islanders won the previous meeting this year. Also went to a shootout, actually, deep into a shootout. They won 4-3 last night. Habs prevailed in overtime. But it was an excellent hockey game, and we'll see what happens. I mean, Montreal, again, as I said 20 minutes ago, they're on house money, but they're not expected to be as bad as they've been.
Right.
So we'll see where it ends up. There's lots of racetrack to go, and now you've got Line A back in a lineup, and it just positions everybody a little bit better, Chris. So, the power play looks a little different with him there and Caulfield at the same time, and they've been going to Lane Hutson as the first option instead of Matheson. And Lane Hutson right now is on par to tie or break club records and NHL records as a rookie defenseman. So there's lots of exciting pieces and things going on in Montreal because they're not where Ottawa is. Right. Ottawa's supposed to be here and Montreal here, and that's kind of where it is. Yeah. But it's just not showing that in the standings. Yeah. By the end of the year, I think it will. I'm telling you right now, I'm calling Ottawa to go on a run right now.
Yeah?
I really think they will.
Well, I'm calling on them to do that.
All right, and hey, listen, my last thing for December 4th.
I know what this is.
Yeah, do you?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Well, I had to say something. How could I come on here?
No, absolutely.
I mean, can you imagine if my dad was alive and all this technology, cell phones and everything else was before. There were phones in cars had come in. Yeah. But he'd be blown away by it because he'd be in his 90s like my mom is. So, but he passed away 29 years ago tonight. We're not too far from the exact time. And yes, me of all people would probably remember the exact time anyway. However, the fact it's the exact moment that I shook Paul Henderson's hand for the first time on Monday night, December 4th, 1995 at 9:31 p.m. on national TV, I think makes it a significant event for this day. And thanks to Shoeless Joe's for sponsoring, so I could mention that.
All right, sounds good.
To my dad.
Well, Sláinte.
Sláinte.
And now,